I bought Lake Cedar back in 2019. Not just the shoreline or some vague access rights. The whole thing. The lake bed, the water itself, and the protective buffer zone around it. The deed was a thick 14-page monster, and right there on page 4, it laid out the rules crystal clear. The folks owning the land along the shore could dip their toes in for fun, nothing more. No businesses, no charging fees, no building anything that touched my water without my say-so. I figured that was that peaceful ownership in the rolling hills of North Carolina, a spot I'd always dreamed of retiring to someday. But dreams have a way of getting interrupted. In August 2023, I headed up to Alaska for a 14-month gig with the federal government, managing water resources on the Yukon River. Tough work, long days, phone on silent most of the time. I left my wife, Sarah, to keep an eye on things back home. She called a few times while I was gone, mentioning some friction with the neighbors in the Pinewood Heights community, the HOA that owned most of the land around the lake. I brushed it off as the usual small-town squabbles, folks complaining about boundary markers or dock rules. Boy, was I wrong. When my plane touched down in Charlotte that crisp October morning in 2024, Sarah picked me up at the airport. She didn't say much at first, just handed me a coffee and drove. "You need to see it for yourself," she said as we hit the interstate. "If I tell you now, you won't believe it." My stomach tightened. We'd owned the only piece of land outside the HOA's grip, a quiet western shore parcel with our modest house. The drive down the gravel access road felt familiar, the twist through the hardwoods, the creek crossing, but when the trees thinned and Lake Cedar came into view, everything changed. Across the water, on the eastern and northern shores, stood a full-blown resort. Rows of identical cabins stretched along the shoreline, at least 50 visible from where I stopped the truck. A big lodge sat in the middle, with a paved parking lot and a concrete boat ramp jutting straight into my lake bed. And get this, a massive 340-foot floating dock, pinned down with steel anchors driven into the mud I owned. A sign gleamed in the sunlight, Cedar Lake Getaway, a Pinewood Heights exclusive. My blood boiled. This wasn't some backyard project. This was a commercial operation, advertised at $285 a night, with private lake access as the hook. I stepped out, heart pounding, and stared. How had this happened? Sarah had tried to warn me, but I'd underestimated. The HOA president, a hotshot developer named Victor Lang, had steamrolled it through while I was away. He'd bought into the community in 2020, taken over as president, and turned our serene lake into his cash cow. Board members had even asked him point blank, "Who owns the lake? Have you talked to them?" He'd brushed it off, assuming access meant he could do whatever he pleased. One resigned in protest. Others went along. And me? Not a single call. That evening, I dug out the deed folder from my bag, the one I always carried. Page 4 stared back. Shoreline owners granted non-commercial recreational access only. No fee-based activities. No structures on the lake bed without written consent. Consent he'd never sought. I called Sarah from the house. "How long has this been running?" 8 months, she said. "Open since February, raking in bookings." She filed complaints with the county 3 times, but they shrugged. It's on their land. Except it wasn't. The ramp and dock were on mine. I picked up the phone and dialed Victor Lang. He answered smoothly, like a salesman closing a deal. "Mr. Harlan," he said after I introduced myself, "I understand you have concerns." Concerns? I laid it out. 199 cabins marketed on my lake, a boat launch in my water, a dock drilled into my property. "Did you read the riparian rights document?" I asked. Silence. His lawyer had reviewed it, he claimed, but it was clear they'd skimmed the access part and ignored the restrictions. "Have your attorney call mine by Monday," I said, and hung up. That's when I looped in Rebecca Klein, my water rights lawyer in Raleigh. She'd helped with the purchase in 2019 and knew the deed inside out. "Tell me everything," she said. I did. She paused. "John, this isn't just overreach. It's trespass, pollution, the works. Give me their booking data. I need to see the dollars." Their promo materials boasted 70% occupancy at $285 nightly. Quick math. Over $1 million a month, all from my lake. 8 months? Nearly $10 million in revenue they'd stolen without asking. Rebecca dove into the records over the weekend. The original 1972 land grant, the 1987 split when Samuel Hayes, the old owner, sold the shore, but kept the lake in his family trust. He'd been smart, drafting Class A rights for his kept parcels, ours now, and Class B for the rest. Non-commercial only, no buildings, no businesses. Victor's side had Class B, plain as day. Violations piled up, commercial rentals, the ramp, 31 feet into my bed, the dock, 44 pins deep, buffer zone cleared for 2,100 feet, and worst, a stormwater pipe dumping runoff straight into the water, unfiltered for months. I hired a hydrographic surveyor, Michael Voss, to map it all. His report was damning. 847 square feet of concrete on my property, pins like permanent stakes, murky water near the pipe with high pollution levels. State labs later confirmed. Fecal bacteria triple the safe limit, nutrients spiking algae risks. This wasn't just illegal. It was destroying what I'd bought to protect. Subpoenas pulled HOA minutes. 3 board members, Margaret Voss, David Kent, Thomas Reed, had grilled Victor. Who owns the lake? Read the deed? Contact them. He dodged. Access rights are solid. Margaret resigned, citing unresolved legal risks. Thomas stayed, later cooperating with us. He'd emailed Victor twice. No reply. The board voted 4-2 to approve. Construction started September 2022. Victor had engineered the ramp for my lake's depths. Knew he was encroaching, didn't care. Rebecca filed on October 29th. A civil injunction to halt commercial use, state complaints for water quality and permits, and a trespass suit. The injunction hearing was tense. Victor's lawyer, Arthur Hale, argued ambiguity, HOA use as residential extension. Judge Miriam Hale wasn't buying. The deed says non-commercial, period. Granted immediately. Lake mentions yanked from listings. Bookings tanked 71% in 48 hours. $3 million vanished. State hit hard. Pipe plugged in 72 hours. Dock permit denied without my consent. Criminal referral followed. Trespass, illegal discharge, fraud. Victor's face when he showed at my door November 17th? Priceless. Let's resolve this, he begged. I shut the door. Talked to Rebecca. Negotiations dragged 6 weeks. Rebecca demanded $31 million. Encroachment fixes, restoration, $2.1 million. Unjust profits, $9.6 million at 65% premium. Punitives, $19.2 million for willfulness. Victor lowballed $8.4 million. We met at $24.09 million. Terms, rip out the ramp and dock. $890,000 is cost. Restore buffer and water quality. $3.5 million total. Paid damages. Plus, a covenant recorded. No future commercial use without my okay. The HOA ousted Victor in December, 112-8 vote. Lot values dipped. Guest got $1.8 million in refunds via AG action. He pled guilty to misdemeanor discharge, $45,000 fine, probation, training. By March, crews demolished the ramp. Hammer strikes echoing and yanked the pins. Lake Cedar? Clean again. Standing on my shore that final day, watching the barge haul away the last debris, Sarah asked, "What clinched it?" I smiled. He never read page 4. Assumed access equaled ownership. But you can't build your empire on someone else's foundation. What do you think, folks? Share in the comments. Have you faced injustice like this, where the powerful ignore rules? Or seen legal violence and disputes tear lives apart? Take a stand. Tell me your view on fighting back against unfairness in life.